Hello everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon from everywhere you are. I hope you are doing well. I'm Mohsen from Microsoft Zero to Hero. I'm today here with another exciting session with Alex and Nicholas. Nicholas is a surprise. I will present him and Alex also. Today we have Alex about the interesting topic, fighting food waste with Fabric and AI. Before we start the session, let me share some information with the community. As you know, we are a part of Microsoft Learn community. Microsoft Learn community is not a hub about the only learning content. It's a huge, is a community, is a hub, uh, is an umbrella for anyone to want to learn, ask a question. You can improve your network, connect with a lot of learn expert, a lot of engineering. You can ask your question, a lot of things. You can find your career path, learning path based off your certification, based off topic. You can join from aka.ms, Microsoft Learn Community. And this is a Microsoft Zero Hero September calendar. All previous session uploaded on our YouTube channel. Register for future session. The last slide is our code of contact. Be aware of other, be friendly and passionate, be welcoming and respectful, be open to all question and viewpoint, be understanding on different, be kind and consider to other in the chat, in the voice, in the question. Now it's a time to add Alex and Nicholas to the stage. Hello, hello guys.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for having
How,
us.
how are you?
Very good. That was
Alex,
Good.
intense.
We're
fine.
excited. We're pumped up.
Yeah, Alex, this is a topic very interesting. Do you want to have a recipe today? Maybe the making a pasta or other things with AI or Fabric.
Well, yeah, it's a bit about cooking skills, I guess, because most nerds don't tend to have good cooking skills. So, how can I use AI to help solve a little problem with food waste that might exist in some households? That's the topic of today.
Yeah,
It's got AI, it's got Fabric, it's got all the beautiful bits and pieces, but Nicholas will tell you a lot more about that in a second.
great, nice, great. Let me add your presentation in the stage, and you can start. The stage is yours.
Thank you for that. So, quick introduction to myself. I'm Alex Dean. I'm a head of data analytics at Allgeier in Switzerland. I've been a Microsoft certified trainer now for over 15 years. I'm very passionate about training, very passionate about learning, and I'm a huge fan of Microsoft Learn. What they've done with that platform is just phenomenal over the last 5 to 10 years. I'm also a Fabric fanatic. So I got to know Fabric in its infant stages, announced in June last year, and the moment I saw it, I totally fell in love with it. I knew where the road was going and knew the story that Microsoft was telling with that platform, and already then it was super exciting. And I must say, I'm still super excited about what Fabric can do for organizations today. It's part of Azure, it's AI integrated, and that's the reason why and we believe it's a great topic for Zero to Hero for you guys to have a look at and see what AI capabilities actually sit behind it. Nicholas.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. So my name is Nicholas Rader. I'm a senior data and AI consultant, also working at Allgeier, Switzerland. We help our customers with Azure, Fabric, Power BI. And that's the cool thing about the solution. We're going to get a glimpse of the power that Fabric has. And last but not least, I am a big coffee enthusiast. Just a little extra something about myself. All right, cool. So it is a real pleasure to showcase this solution to you guys. I'm a big fan of this build since it leverages Microsoft Fabric, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Azure OpenAI to combat food waste. So too often we buy food items that have a short shelf life. We end up forgetting about them in the back of our fridge, or we have a full fridge, but we don't know what meals to cook. I buy a chicken breast and oh my goodness, I have no clue what to do with this thing. I'm a catastrophic cook. If my wife were here today, she would start laughing. It's a vicious cycle. And we end up throwing food away because it's simply not being used. So that's where this solution comes into play. Why not create a system that notifies me when my food items are about to expire? And on top of that, have the system use AI to create delicious recipes with those same items. It's a match made in heaven. So, how do we do this? Well, how do we get AI to create these wonderful recipes? First things first, we need to figure out what's in our fridge. Simply put, we need an inventory count of our food. And that's where Power Apps comes into play. We can create an app that allows us to take pictures of food items we're putting into the fridge. Once we've done that, we need to identify how long these items are going to last. And also here, we use AI to help us get a shelf life estimate. An estimate, but still good enough. So let's say I buy a box of eggs, I take a picture, it records that food item, and AI generates an average shelf life for me based on that product. In my case, a box of eggs. So it'll spit out 2 weeks. Perfect. So I know what I have in my fridge. I know the average shelf life. I can now create some sort of automatic trigger that notifies me when this product will expire. And I can also get that trigger to get an AI involved to create that wonderful recipe for me. Now, some of you might be asking yourselves, how exactly does the app know what food is being scanned? Right? It's a great question. So basically, to classify the food item, say eggs, waffles, chicken, you name it, we have two methods when we're using the app. So we can either take a picture of the food item itself and have AI classify that food for us, or we can take a picture of the barcode. Now, the barcode approach is an interesting one. And for that to work, we use an open source food database called Open Food Facts. This database holds a treasure trove of attributes associated with the most common food items we find in any supermarket: nutritional values, food categorizations, and most importantly, it also has the barcode of the item. And with this barcode, we can map the product being photographed. All right, awesome. So we're all set. We have our inventory. We know when the product will expire. Let's take a closer look at the trigger. Yeah. So that's where Fabric Activator comes into play. We use Fabric reflexes to react to the changes in our Fabric environment. Specifically, the reflex reacts to the measure that calculates the amount of days before a product expires. In our case, the trigger occurs 5 days prior to the food item expiring. Once that threshold is hit, another cool service comes into play, and that is Power Automate. The Power Automate flow passes both food items about to expire together with food items in my inventory to an Azure OpenAI model, which in turn generates 3 delicious recipes for me to use before my food goes bad. And this is all sent to me via email. All right, brilliant. So we've successfully avoided food waste. And that's how this whole thing wraps up. Now, there is an added little feature which we might showcase depending on the time we still have, which revolves around fine tuning. Fine tuning of an Azure OpenAI model. So essentially, we want our recipes, or at least the recipes that the model generates, we want them to adhere to a more personal preference. We call this the master chef. I know, it's a brilliant name. But if you like food, say, for example, Asian fusion, or if you're a vegan, or if you prefer veggie-based recipes, you can tweak the model to generate more specific recipes. So in our case, we created 50 different Asian fusion recipes as a training data, or we use that as training data. And as such, the recipes have a more Asian fusion touch to them, and of course, become that much more delicious. But that is enough about how this solution works, high level. We want to get to the real meat on the bone, and that's where Alex is going to take us on a wonderful expedition and showcase the building blocks step by step. Alex?
Yes. So how do I disable this thing? Okay. So effectively, it's time for a demo. So we're really going to show you the inside workings of this. And yes, Miriam, there's going to be a GitHub link right at the end as well, where you can recreate everything that we're showing you today. So we'll show you how to set up the food fact database, so that you've got your own database of millions of food items. We'll show you the Power App and how that integrates to actually use AI Builder and cognitive services to identify food. We'll show you how we tied in Azure OpenAI to actually predict the expiration dates. We're going to show you how Reflex works in Fabric to trigger on events on a semantic model. And we'll also show you how we're using Power Automate to orchestrate our discussions with Azure OpenAI to create recipes and then send out an email. So you get everything. And if there's time, I'll also quickly show you how the fine-tuning works. Now, before we get to that, let's get into some demo time. So here we've got a Fabric workspace. There's quite a few artifacts in here. And the first thing I want to do is just filter on notebooks and show you how we effectively got the data into the workspace. So this one here, load data from Open Food Facts, is a Python notebook that we wrote to pull the data directly from an open source endpoint. So this is static.openfoodfacts.org. And effectively, from this URL, we're downloading the whole database as a compressed file. We're putting it into the Lakehouse, into a files folder, then we're extracting it, and then we're creating effectively a list of items that we're going to be using to effectively then create the database from that. The next thing, we go and load all the data from that folder into a data frame. So that's a Spark construct, loading that into memory. And then effectively, we can show a couple of items just to double check do we have. And we've got now the whole data set in memory. That's a beautiful thing about Fabric. Loading a couple of million items in memory is not an issue. We've got heaps. The last thing we really have to do is we have to clean it up. We have to do a little bit of transformation here. Fabric lakehouses do not like special characters, and especially they don't like spaces in their column names. So this is a quick one. Replace the column names where we find blanks and replace them with underscores and clean up our columns before we then finish off by overwriting a delta table. And we called this delta table products zip. So that's my whole products from the zip file. And I've created a table of that in my Lakehouse. So roughly 25 lines of code, and we've got the data stored. We actually didn't come up with this idea ourselves on how to do this. There's a fantastic thing. If you're new to Fabric, and especially if you're new to data science in Fabric, if you go bottom left onto the data science experience within your Fabric workspace, you get this button for use a sample, and this is absolutely brilliant. It automatically installs a Python notebook in your environment where you can try things out, and it's got exactly the same construct. It downloads the zip files, it downloads the CSV files that you need to be able to do your experiments, to be able to figure out customer churn or maybe figure out some sales forecasting. And we took from that leaf of Microsoft's book and effectively created our Python notebook similarly, so it's easy for you to get started. So now we have in our workspace, quick double check that. Let's add a Lakehouse to this. In the Open Food Facts Lakehouse, we've got a table, products, and here we've got couple of million products pulled from an open source endpoint. And that's going to be the basis now. So
how many products are actually in the Open Food Facts database?
Oh man, last time I counted, I think it was roughly 2.5 million. But how about we quickly find out for ourselves?
Oh, brilliant.
It's a good question. How many products do we have? This is nice about Fabric. You can actually run SQL directly in the browser. 3 million. Sorry, I lied to you. Over 3 million records in the Open Food Facts database. So it took me just 2 seconds to execute this. So it's pretty performant in being able to work with the data. So we have 3 million products, which will make our life easier if we're trying to identify products by barcode. So that's the second step. I want to identify the product so that I know what it is, so I can figure out its expiration date. To do that, I need Power App. So this is now where we've built a Power App, and yes, that's also part of the GitHub repo as a solution file. You can install that. And it's really got 2 main components. The barcode reader, that's a built-in component that you can add to any Power App, and it opens your camera and reads the barcode, puts the barcode in here. And the second part is an image media control that, if you look at here, it sends the image to a prediction endpoint, and that's using the cognitive services. So this is basic Azure cognitive services. Here's an image, tell me what it is. Now, to give you an idea of what that looks like in action, I can't really show you my phone, so I took a screen grab from my phone earlier. And we activate the barcode reader app and take a bag here. I've got a bag of almonds. It scans the barcode, and that's really one good piece of information. But just to be on the safe side, maybe I don't find that barcode. Let's also take a picture of the product and see if AI can help us identify it. And yeah, it just makes my life easier, so I don't have to type things in. I'm lazy. Yeah? Taking a picture is 3 clicks. And then AI tries to identify it as, takes a second, a bag of nuts. Okay, I'm not very confident with the 45% confidence score, but good enough for us. All we have to do now is lock the product. I think I just hit that at the end. Come on, there we go. I can't move my mouse. So lock the product is the button right at the bottom, and that sends it off. So how does that work? Well, logging the product, if you look at this one here, calls the send barcode flow. So effectively, using Power Automate, I'm now sending this information, the barcode and the description that I pulled out of AI, and I'm sending that to a Power Automate flow, and that flow then sends it to Fabric. So effectively, if we look at the flows here, I should have, good question, is it here? Send barcode. The send barcode flow doesn't do much. It's a very simple flow. It just takes the input, sets some variables, and then invokes an HTTP request. So I'm calling the Fabric API. I'm saying, here, Fabric, please go to this workspace, go to this notebook, and execute the notebook. And here is my payload. So I'm sending you now the 2 elements. The first one is a number, and the second one is text. So I'm going to be sending you two parameters. The first one's going to be a number, the second one's going to be a text. And that's my payload I'm handing over. And then hopefully I can finish. Now, when you send a request to Fabric, it actually doesn't give you a response. So you can't use anything that it sent. It doesn't send anything back to you. It's an asynchronous approach. But now it's in Fabric. So let's go back to Fabric and have a look at the notebook that I just called up. So back to my notebooks. It's the add to Frid's Python notebook that has now been triggered. And you'll see here's the parameter block. And effectively, there's 2 parameters, the product and the barcode. And that gets replaced when it gets executed. So in this case, the default for testing kimchi. Taking the data, or the replaced data from the API call, we then first look up the product in the database. So do I have the barcode? And if I have the barcode, then I'm going to use the name from the database, because I'll trust that to be a valid result. If I can't find the barcode in the database, means one of those products not covered, then I'll just stick to the product name that the AI builder gave me as an option. And then I'm going to call OpenAI. So I've got my data. Let's go to OpenAI and ask the AI assistant how long this product's going to last.
I got a quick question here.
Yeah.
I see you're using your own Fabric environment called OpenAI.
Oh, yeah. So here at the top. Yeah. So for the calls specifically, this structure to work, you have to use a certain API version of OpenAI. So at least 2309 preview. And sadly enough, the default version of OpenAI that's installed in the default environment is too old. It's like 0.9, and you need at least 1.12. So you could just try to pip install 1.12 directly in the notebook. And that works if you're interactively playing with it and working interactively, works without a charm. But if you call a notebook via the API endpoint, or if you schedule a notebook, pip install is not an option. It'll refuse to install any kind of libraries. So in that case, you have to have it pre-installed, which means you create your own environment, associate that with the notebook, and then it's always got the correct version of OpenAI running in the background. Thank you for that. So here I'm also using the API key. Now this is a big tip for any developer out there. Don't put your API keys into your code for everybody to look at and screen grab and use. Instead, little tip, put it into Key Vault. Key Vault is a fantastic Azure tool. It integrates with Fabric, it integrates with Python, and you can use MS Spark utils to look up the secret in the Key Vault and use that at runtime. Much safer, and API keys don't land in your source code. So what am I doing? Effectively, it's a simple single shot, not even a few shot. I'm just designing one single question. API, OpenAI, today be a food concierge who knows how to estimate when a product's going to expire. You're going to get a product name, and I want you to give me how long it's going to last. Here's an example. If I ask eggs, you would respond with fridge 20 to 30 days. So that's already baking one example into this one. Then I'm just going straight ahead. Here's another example. Yeah, so this is two shots, just to be really sure I'm telling the AI how to handle it. I tell you potatoes, you're supposed to answer pantry 30 days. That's roughly how long potatoes will last in the pantry if it's nice and dry. Okay, now you know what to do. Here's my content, here's my product, here's my bag of nuts or the kimchi. Now please tell me how long it's going to last. So the kimchi in this case predicted fridge 30 to 60 days. Okay, that's good. That's the response I got. Now, sometimes it'll tell me weeks or months, because it doesn't matter how often I tell it to do something, it might still decide to do it differently. So a bit of error handling is not a bad idea. In this case, I'm just double checking. If he gave me back week, then divide it by 7. If he gave me back month, then divide it by 30. And on top of that, figure out the average by taking the start and the end and taking the middle. So 30 to 60 days, that's great, but what kind of expiry date am I going to use now? So I just went easy, took the middle, say, okay, let's just assume it expires in 45 days, in the middle between those two. So generate a new expiry date, please, based on that. And that's going to be the expiry date I want to save for this product, in this case, with the kimchi, into the database, or the bag of nuts that I've just scanned. So now we've added the product to our fridge inventory database. Keep on adding products with different expiry dates. All good. But where's the fun part? Where's the avoiding food waste? We need it now to automatically react when a product is about to expire. So this is where Reflex comes in to save the day. In Fabric, we can create Reflex, reactions to data changes, reactions to real-time data. And it even works as a reaction to, actually before I go into the Reflex, I'll show you the report. You can even react to changes in the report. So here's my fridge contents report. A whole bunch of things in my fridge, and minced meat and corned beef. And I've got a measure that calculates how many days, T minus expiry date, have I got until it's going to expire. So the mincemeat going to expire in the next 24 hours. Might really want to use that. Corned beef pretty soon too, and then I've got some time. So bell peppers have still got a week, sweet corn got a week, and chips fish. Although I've got 80 days, I'm pretty sure it's not going to last the weekend. And effectively, by creating a measure, I can then set an alert. And it's as simple as that. You take the value, set an alert, and you say, if the expires in days becomes less than, let's say, 5. If it's less than 5 days, we'll start thinking about using it. And that's the starting point from a Reflex. The default options are send an email or create a Teams message. But we wanted to do a bit more. We actually want to start talking to AI and generate recipe ideas. So we want to talk to Power Automate. Don't worry, set the default up now, and then you can go back and fix up the custom action later. So now let's go to our Reflex. The Reflex itself, here we go, expires in X days. And you can see every hour the report gets checked. So that's one of the defaults built into the system. If you've got real-time data coming in, the Reflex triggers on the real-time data in real time. Awesome. If you're setting it on a report or semantic model, it'll check the value once an hour. That's the maximum frequency you get. So every hour it figured out, the stuff that's expired. And over here, sweet corn mincemeat, that's data that's just come in. Now, if I look at my trigger configuration, you'll see quite soon how I can work with that data. So here I can see all of my different fridge contents. And over here, I can see that mincemeat, and sweet corn. Mincemeat has got a value of 1, and sweet corn's got a value of 7. Now, looking at that, you can see here that mincemeat actually triggered my rule engine. So the first part of setting up a Reflex is, what am I interested in? I'm interested in expires in X amount of days. So that's the value I'm looking at. The next question is, what am I going to do? What's the rule? And I'm saying if it's less than 5, and important if it becomes less than 5. So I'm only going to trigger it once. And after that, I'm not going to trigger it again. I'm going to trigger it once. The moment it becomes less than 5, trigger activated. And we can see at 3 o'clock UTC time, or just before, it triggered on mincemeat, saying, yep, looks like you need to do something with the mincemeat. It's about to expire. And what am I going to do? I'm going to now act upon that. And the 2 default is email and Teams. And what you can also do is add your own custom actions. Now, adding your own custom actions means at the top, you first go create new custom action, give it a name. So this would be create funky recipe and email it. That's what we want to do as soon as that trigger is activated. Any extra inputs, any extra data points I want to add to this? And in this case, we said no, because we're going to actually call the semantic model to get all info we need. And then you have to copy this connection string. So you press the copy button, and then this button becomes available. Don't try to create a flow without having the connection string, because it's not going to work. Create the flow, brings you over to Power Automate. I love this experience. And it gives you a blank flow. You can start adding to it. And all you have to do now is just paste whatever you just copied into your memory, paste that in here. That hooks up the flow with a trigger. And now whatever you configure is going to happen. Now, of course, we've prepared something for you earlier. So also that is part of the GitHub repo, part of the solution. And let me show you the get recipe Power Automate flow. So trigger activated. What happens next? The next thing is we're going to go to the semantic model and say, give me everything that's in the fridge right now, but maybe everything that hasn't expired. Okay, so anything that is not in my immediate zone, and the expiry date is more than 5 days. I can definitely still use those items. Not many people know this. You can actually talk to your semantic models using DAX directly from Power Automate. Makes them super flexible. I'm going to store that in a variable. I'm just taking two. I'm not taking everything. I'm just taking two of these ingredients and say I've got 2 items that I'm interested in. Let's pull them as optional ingredients in there. Then I've got my required ingredients. Now that part is give me everything from my fridge that's more than 0. Sorry guys, I don't want to use stuff that's already gone off. I'm not that adventurous. And less than 5. So anywhere between 0 and 5, those things should get used as fast as possible. And store that effectively in the next variable, required ingredients. And here comes the fun part. This is now where we're talking to Azure OpenAI. We're calling the OpenAI connector with a prompt saying, here we go, please generate some great recipes. Here's my prompt. You can add up to 2 more ingredients as an optional ingredient that's not there. Yeah, sometimes you add salt and pepper and maybe flour, stuff you normally have as a staple in your cupboard, but you don't necessarily track in your fridge. The required ingredients are these, and the optional ingredients are those. And then once you got the response from OpenAI, send an email saying, hey, these products are about to expire. Here are some recipes that you might want to use. And this is what it then looks like. Sent me an email at 5 o'clock today. Effectively, the minced meat and the corned beef are at the end of their life. We can just double check that again with the Power BI. With the Power BI report. That was this baby here. Minced meat, 1 day left. Corned beef, 2 days left. These are my 2 critical ones. And the first recipe is a corned beef hash. That sounds interesting. Corned beef, minced meat, a can of chickpeas, salt and pepper, and an onion, and all the instructions you need. Peel the onions, chop the potatoes, and make yourself a corned beef minced meat hash. Interesting concept. Now, some of you might have noticed the create completion also says you have to use all the ingredients on the required list, while the ingredients on the optional list can be used, and the response should use HTML, so the email looks good. And I think somewhere I told them to include 1 vegetarian option. Yeah, with at least 1 vegetarian option. So effectively, we're telling the AI bots, please create 3 recipes. 1 of them should be vegetarian. Use everything that's about to expire. a bit difficult because we're sending them conflicting messages now. They're saying, please create a vegetarian option, but you have to include the 2 things that are expiring, which is mincemeat and corned beef. So forgive the AI, didn't know really what to do. So it invented, that's called hallucination, a vegetarian corned beef chickpea stuffed bell peppers. So just leave the corned beef away and you're vegetarian. You'll be safe. And just use the chickpeas instead. And the last one is minced meat and potato casserole. So a nice way of using minced meat and potatoes you tend to have in the fridge and in the pantry as well. And there's lots more we could be doing with this. But this kind of takes you through the flow of how to get the Power Apps and Power Automate flowing through. So I think what I want to do quickly is just go back to the design. So you saw the Power App that you could use to take a picture, scan the barcode. That then actually used Power Automate to talk to the notebook. That then went to AI to say, how long is this going to last? Actually, before it went to AI, I looked up in the Lakehouse, do I know this product? And I'll use that information too. And then it stored that in the fridge. And so this is my fridge with my ingredients. And we had a report that was looking at that fridge and calculated the expiry date, or more importantly, calculated the time to live. And then we had a Reflex that was looking at that time to live, that expires in how many days, And once that was underneath a threshold, the Reflex would trigger call a Power Automate flow, which was a custom action. That flow would then again talk to Azure OpenAI, but also that flow would talk to the semantic model and get all the information out of the model it needs. Because it's really hard to pass lots of information in a Reflex. It's one painful thing we noticed. So it's easier just to have a blank Reflex and then just pull out the extra information you need later. And that then sends an email, and hopefully I'll have either the corned beef hash or the mincemeat potato casserole tomorrow night for dinner.
Delicious. Awesome.
Okay. I guess, Nicholas, we'll have time for the fine-tuning. That was so fast.
Well,
So
maybe people have questions and we'll eat up the rest of the time.
no, I haven't seen any questions except for GitHub Red Bull. So I'll share one more thing with you guys at the fine-tuning part. Now, guys, be careful where you do your fine-tuning. Nicholas and I ran into this quite painfully at the Swiss Data Science Conference when we were hosting a fine-tuned model for too long in Azure OpenAI. If you do your fine-tuning in OpenAI and you create a fine-tuned model, it just sits there and waits for you to use it. It doesn't cost you anything until you use it, which is awesome. Although, if you create a fine-tuned model in Azure OpenAI and you want it to sit around until you use it, you have to actually deploy that model and host it. And from that moment onwards, you are paying hosting costs for that model, and they can rack up pretty fast. So be careful. Fine-tuning in OpenAI, the last time we looked at it, still cheap. Fine-tuning in Azure OpenAI actually starts to get expensive because you start incurring hosting costs. So let's have a look at this baby, OpenAI training. And so this one here I'm just doing in the browser. So I'm not bothering with a separate environment. I'm just doing a pip install. The pip install tends to be faster. If I do a pip install, I get a Spark cluster from the default pool within 3 seconds, up and running with the default cluster. And then I just install pip, which might take 10 seconds to get it up and running. If I use my own environment, like this one here, the OpenAI environment, I'm booting up my own cluster at runtime, and that can take up to a minute until the cluster is up and running. So you might want to pick your battles. If you're not planning on scheduling the notebook or you're planning on remote executing it, pip install actually is faster. So I'm installing OpenAI 1.12, and then again, getting my secret from my API key. And the first thing we have to do is we have to upload the training JSON file. So the training file is a JSON-L, which means every single line is a JSON record. And we've got roughly 50 lines in here of different recipes that could be classified as Asian fusion. So imagine maybe some bolognese dumplings instead of ravioli. Imagine maybe some sweet and sour soy bruschetta instead of your normal bruschetta. Just start mixing your Mediterranean ingredients with Asian styles. Start mixing some Asian ingredients with your Mediterranean cooking styles, and you start getting some interesting Asian fusion recipes, and some great ones also if you start mixing different Asian styles together. So every single line is a new recipe, and we're trying to now push OpenAI into a certain style of generating recipes. First up, of course, the self-training JSON is in our GitHub repo. It's all there for you to use. So a quick look at that. No. Oh, we changed the we changed the name of the project, so I called it AI Hackers in the end. So we go to data, and we go to self-training JSON, and this is the JSON file. This is the message. That's the system message. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Oh, this one's even funkier. It's a vegan Asian fusion recipe, a Mediterranean fusion between Jamie Oliver and John Molinaro. And here are a whole bunch of different options, different recipes. King oyster mushrooms with cucumber and mint, or tempeh with pomegranate, all kinds of beautiful different recipe ideas. Now, this is the file we're going to upload to the OpenAI service and say, okay, this is what you now need to use for training. Well, first I download it to my Lakehouse before then upload it to OpenAI. So this is me uploading it to OpenAI, saying I want to use this file for fine-tuning purposes, please. Then we're going to fine-tune the model. This is from February, so back then we could only fine-tune 3.5 turbo. I think by now we can even fine-tune 4.0 even, if I'm not mistaken. Might be interesting to upgrade this and see what the 4.0 version comes up with. And first thing you do is you send it off and say, here's the file, start the fine-tuning, please. Here's a little job. Tell me a bit about the job. Is it still running? No. Put in a loop. Always good to have a bit of a loop to write running 60 seconds later. So this took roughly 5 minutes to finish the fine-tuning. And every 60 seconds it wrote out a little message. And once the fine-tuning is completed, then we can actually try it out. So we're going to say retrieve that job, yeah, and then we're going to get the fine-tuning model from the job, and we're going to now start using that fine-tuning model, using the completions, and say, please, your cooking assistant, create something with capsicum, flour, soy sauce, chili, and cheese and broccoli. That's my ingredients. Figure something out. And the answer are Mediterranean, Asian fusion, vegan stuffed capsicums, because it's a vegan chef. And this could now be your own little master chef that cooks just the kind of recipes you like. If that's more the shepherd's pie kind of stuff, good and hearty goulashes, or if that's more the vegan salads with the pomegranates and the avocados on top.
Hey, Alex.
Yay.
The fine-tuning, how long did that take you?
Well, this one, this one was 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, easy.
6 times, no, 3, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So it didn't take too long. Didn't take too long at all. But we're only talking roughly 44 recipes. Now, I'll be honest. I cheated.
Oof.
I didn't actually take these recipes from some kind of chefcook.com database. That would be a copyright problem, wouldn't it? Instead, I asked GPT to come up with some really interesting sounding recipes, and the ones that I liked, I then took and put them in here as food for training. So careful. It has been proven now, training AI on AI-generated content is not as good as training AI on human content. But for the sake of forcing the handcuffs and saying, please, really only create recipes that follow a certain style with a certain sort of ingredients list, I found that to be enough. It doesn't have to be a massive amount. It doesn't have to be huge. 40, 50 can be enough. Just to tip the scale, just to tip the needle towards a certain style.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's it. That's all I've got to share. Let me be fair enough. The GitHub URL is going straight into the chat window. Robert, now here comes the best part. You actually don't have to replay this presentation because we made this whole, Christian Totte, a previous employee, and myself, we actually created this whole project as part of the Fabric AI Hackathon that happened in February. We won the category Best Real World Example, which we were very proud of. And as part of that, we not only created an explainer video, I also created a whole end-to-end walkthrough video, creating every resource from scratch in this walkthrough video to show you how to set this up, including how to install the solution package that's in here. So you've got the Power App solution package to install within your Dynamics environment, how to get the notebooks into your environment, how to import them, how to get the reports into your environment, and even the DAX measures we're using to configure the default semantic model. So if you're using a default semantic model, here's the DAX used to create it. Everything in here, and it includes the Power Automate and the Power Apps as well. So it's all there. And yes, of course, there's also going to be a YouTube video on top of this. That's going to be live, Nicholas and me today, in the YouTube video. Any more good questions? Because I think there's a voucher to go around for somebody to sit an exam, if I'm not mistaken. But I can't really see. I can't see any really good questions that are good enough for an exam voucher.
Yeah.
Needs to be earned. Needs to be earned.
It needs to be earned.
Yeah. The first of all, your presentation, your session, it was very delicious, Alex, Nicholas. Really enjoy. And guys, if you have any question, you can ask in the comments. As Alex mentioned, we have a Microsoft exam voucher discount. We can select the best question as a winner. Yes, guys. First question.
Okay. Licensing user, this would be used at home. Okay. Now, first up, it's not really ready to be used at home, because the one thing you'll have to consider is you have to keep that virtual fridge updated. If you actually use something out of your fridge, you have to cross it off. So we haven't gone all the way through yet. But if anybody feels like finishing the scenario, please go ahead. I think, if I'm not totally mistaken, we even made this not quite MIT, but non-commercial. So there's a non-commercial license you can use for all of the code that's in that repo. From a licensing perspective from Fabric, it actually doesn't need much. You could be running this on an F2 without a problem at all. One thing to keep in mind is the Power App right now is using one premium feature. And to be honest, I'm not that huge a fan of it, actually, which is the AI image description, the AI cognitive services to identify what the image is. That's a premium feature, so that'll make your Power Apps license require premium. Take that away and just have the Power App barcode scanner plus the call the Power Automate, and you're back on a standard setup, and you're going to be cheaper. So if you want, kill that, don't need premium, you're going to be off cheaper as well. From a Power Automate perspective, the flows, I don't think the dataset one was premium. Power BI. Yeah, the Power BI wasn't premium. So the flow that you can do here doesn't require any premium features, which is good. So you can use your normal Power Automate license to be able to do that too. So both of these, Power Apps and Power Automate, you can both do them in standard, which means you could be using an existing M365 license, and maybe you've got an E3 or an E5, you can use that as part of your existing licensing. And for Fabric itself, the load is really small. We're only executing a notebook, and that notebook is then going to OpenAI. And F2 will be more than enough to be able, the smallest F you can get your hands on will be more than enough to actually finalize this little scenario.
And maybe to point out Azure OpenAI, I mean.
True, Azure OpenAI is a resource that you can use in the background. You can choose either OpenAI or Azure OpenAI, both work. You pay per call, you pay per tokens that you're using. So it's very much consumption based. And if you're talking this as a use case in a private setting, peanuts.
Peanuts.
Cents on the dollar. So maybe $1.50, $2 a month, if that.
Interesting question.
Is Power BI desktop going to be dead soon? No, it's not. We still need it. But we will have more and more feature parity online. So we've now got an online editing experience that allows us to create reports directly from the data, directly from the Lakehouse. But the feature parity is not there yet. Sorry, it's 50% max. And especially when we're dealing with bigger items like I need to deal with translations, I need to deal with column groups. The online one is not there yet. So I don't think Power BI Desktop's going to die anytime soon, but it might die. Yeah, it might become software as a service online browser experience at some point. The same way Outlook will probably die and become a pure browser experience too. There are no renewals after 2026 in Power BI Premium. Well, it depends which Power BI Premium you're talking about. If you're saying Power BI Premium capacity, like the P1s and P2s you used to buy, correct. There's no way to renew. They're phasing it out this year. From 2025 onwards, you won't be able to buy it anymore. And from 2026 onwards, you won't be able to renew it anymore. You get in Fabric everything you have in Power BI Premium capacity right now, and much, much, much more. If you use reserved capacities, which means you commit yourself to 1 year of usage, you pay only 60% of the list price in Azure for your Fabric, and F64 is nearly the same price, a little bit more expensive than a P1 capacity that you used to have. So from a pricing perspective, you pay a little bit more, but you get a universe of more capabilities. So yeah, it's gonna disappear. What they haven't discontinued yet is premium per user. I don't know what's happening there yet. So far, they're going to continue the premium per user capabilities.
Nice, great.
Not ASAP, Martin. You don't have to do it straight away. But yes, start planning. Start planning your migration to Fabric. There are so many good features, especially AI skills, the whole real-time scenario, Lakehouse, big data capabilities. So much that you get that you don't get in premium. Hit me up on LinkedIn if you need to know more. Copilot F64. Sorry, yep. That's the big one. That's a big boy.
And the trial, that won't cut it.
No, trial doesn't do it. Okay, awesome. I think we've now got some good questions in the chat, so I think it's time to do the raffle and see who wins the.
Yes, please select winner.
Oh, we have to select a winner.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, based on the sheer amount of questions coming from Martin, well.
Which question? Martin, I think we have two guys, Martin and
Miriam.
Marian, yeah.
Martin and Miriam, the M team.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it would be unfair.
I'm gonna flip a coin.
I'm gonna flip a coin. So how about roll?
Wait, Miriam is giving it up.
Yeah. Because
you got a 75% discount. I know that discount. Okay,
yeah.
in that case, Martin, you get the.
Yeah, Martin, please send us on the LinkedIn or email message. I will provide you the voucher of this exam. Nice, great. Thank you, guys. Alex, Nicholas, is there anything you want to add?
It's been awesome being here, and it's been so nice that we've been invited to help the Zero to Hero community learn a little bit more about where you can use AI. In our case, specifically in Fabric, but also maybe a little bit of that in Power Automate, a little bit of that in Power Apps. So it was a pleasure.
Yeah, great.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Alex. I think if we can end of this session. Thank you again. Have a
All
good
right.
day.
Awesome. See you later, guys. Ciao, ciao.